Welcome to Starbound. My name's the Voice Ogre, and I'll be your narrator today. Nearly 500 supporters get early access to our stories, including brand new stories of Sunspire Academy, which I happen to do, and Freyrin and Rimiki. If you'd like to unlock early access and support new episodes and future series, tap Join below to become a Starbound member. Now, let's get into today's story. The Vel Consortium prison ship Malevolent Gesture smelled like defeat and industrial-grade antiseptic, which was saying something, considering most of its inmates couldn't smell in the human sense of the word. The ship's AI had been reprogrammed by somebody with a philosophy degree and a mean streak, so it piped in synthesized odors specifically calibrated to each species' most primal disgust responses. For humans, apparently that was hospital corridors and spoiled milk. Jenny had been breathing it for 6 hours now, which was 5 hours and 59 minutes longer than her training scenarios had prepared her for. Not because the smell bothered her. She'd eaten worse things during survival week, but because it meant she'd been conscious for 6 hours without killing anyone, and that felt like a personal failure. The energy shackles around her wrists hummed with the specific frequency that made her molars ache. Through the cell's power conduits, and any time they let her out of the cell, she'd been mapping the ship's systems, listening to guard chatter through the vibrations in the walls. Knowledge was ammunition, and she was loading up. The cell door dilated with the wet schlorp that reminded her of the time she had to crawl through a bio-waste recycler. 2 figures entered, Consortium middle management in shark-skin suits that looked like they'd been tailored by someone who'd only heard descriptions of style. They moved in synchronized steps, trying to imitate their boss's famous unity.
"The asset is awake,"
said the one on the left, a forgettable humanoid whose name tag read Supervisor Kelvix.
"The asset has a name,"
Ginny said, working her jaw to keep the shackle frequency from making her teeth rattle.
"It's go fuck yourself. First name go, last name yourself. The fuck is silent."
The suits exchanged a look that might have been confusion or constipation. Hard to tell with faces that looked like middle management everywhere, pinched with the permanent expression of someone above you making their life difficult.
"You are worth 40 million credits,"
said Kelvix.
"The Earth Defense Directorate's discontinued Crucible project. Director Kosum will be pleased. The Masters Vale and Veet have buyers who believe that you contain genetic modifications, enhanced reflexes, augmented strength, perhaps even predictive combat algorithms."
Jenny laughed. It came out sharp and bitter.
"You kidnapped me for superpowers? Oh, that's adorable. Did you actually believe in the Tooth Fairy? Santa Claus? Competent galactic government?"
The suit on the right tilted his head.
"You are saying that you have no enhancements?" "I'm enhanced, all right."
Ginny leaned forward as much as the shackles allowed.
"Enhanced by a childhood of eating MREs older than some solar systems. Enhanced by drill sergeants who thought child psychology meant hitting you with sticks. Enhanced by 6,000 hours of combat sims where the victory condition was everyone else dies."
She grinned. It was the kind of expression that made hardened killers reconsider their career choices.
"I'm not a weapon, boys. I'm what happens when you give a perfectly normal girl nothing but violence, and then act surprised when she gets good at it. I'm human."
The supervisor shared another synchronized look. This time, it was definitely concern.
"Perhaps we should increase security,"
one began. That's when the ship's hull rang like a bell. Not an explosion, not a collision. The specific resonance of someone hitting reinforced steel with something very hard and very angry. The supervisors' faces went pale, which was impressive considering they started at mayonnaise.
What was that?"
they asked, almost in unison. Ginny's grin widened.
"That? That sounds like someone just kicked in your door with a fake leg. Which means that you boys are about to meet a real enhanced human."
She settled back against the wall.
Fair warning, he's going to be cranky. He hates flying, and he really hates having to chase me across the galaxy. Again. Ginny sighed. It's not my fault that aliens keep abducting me. Another impact. This time accompanied by what sounded like automatic weapons fire and someone screaming creative profanity in at least 6 languages.
Who?
The supervisor started. Reuben Scar, Ginny said, savoring the way their faces went from pale to transparent. 5'2" of concentrated mean. Lost his leg in the Orion skirmish. Lost his patience about 40 years before that. Killed 3 sectoid ambassadors with a dinner fork because they interrupted his poker game. The Alliance Council passed a resolution declaring him a natural disaster. The lights flickered. Someone, somewhere, was screaming about hull breaches and atmospheric integrity. But here's the fun part, Ginny continued, working her wrists against the shackles. The feedback loop was almost there. He's not enhanced either. No gene mods, no cyber augments, no fancy tech. Just a mean old bastard with better training than you novices have. The ship lurched. The artificial gravity hiccuped, leaving them floating for a heartbeat before slamming them back down. In the distance, getting closer, they could hear boots on deck plating. Not running, walking. The measured pace of someone who didn't need to hurry because everything in their way was already dead. He's coming for me, Ginny said. And when he finds out that you put me in energy shackles, that kind of hurt, by the way, he's going to get creative. Did you know that the human body has roughly 37 trillion cells? He's going to make you feel what it's like to have every single one of them shut down. The supervisors were backing toward the door now. Their attempted synchronization completely shot.
Guards?
They called.
All guards to detention level!
The door exploded inward. Not opened, not breached, exploded. Because someone had strapped demolition charges to a guard and kicked him through it. Smoke cleared to reveal a figure that would have been comical if it wasn't so terrifying. 5 feet 2 inches of scarred muscle and bad attitude. Wearing combat armor that looked like it had been through a blender and decided to keep going out of spite. His prosthetic leg was military grade, which meant it was ugly, functional, and could apparently kick through blast doors. His face looked like someone had started carving a statue of Fury and gave up halfway through. Captain Reuben Roughneck Scour surveyed the room with eyes that had seen the worst the galaxy had to offer and decided to take it personally.
40 million credits,
he growled, voice like gravel in a cement mixer.
That's what you idiots paid to kidnap her. 40 million!
He spat something that sizzled when it hit the floor.
I killed the Primarch for half that, and he had the decency to put up a fight!
The supervisor tried to speak, but fear had turned their words into whimpers. Reuben ignored them. His attention was on Ginny, taking in the shackles, the cell, the way she was holding herself. Reuben ignored them. His attention was on Ginny, taking in the shackles, the cell, the way she was holding herself. His expression shifted from murderous to apocalyptic.
Did they hurt you?
Reuben grunted. Just the shackles, Ginny said. Her voice shook slightly from the pain. Frequency resonance. It makes my teeth ache.
Uh-huh.
Reuben pulled something from his belt. It looked like a sawed-off shotgun, possibly an explosive.
Close your eyes, kid.
I've seen worse, Ginny protested.
Not what I'm about to do, you haven't.
The next 30 seconds were educational. Ginny had thought she understood violence. She had been trained by the best killers Earth had ever produced. Studied every form of combat from Krav Maga to zero-G assassination. But watching Reuben work was like watching someone who had taken the concept of violence, distilled it down to its purest form, and then decided that wasn't quite enough. He didn't just kill the supervisors, he deconstructed them. Every move was economical, practical, and exactly as brutal as it needed to be,
plus about 20% for emphasis. By the time he was done, the cell walls looked like a Jackson Pollock painting, if Pollock had worked exclusively in alien viscera.
Right,
Reuben said, not even breathing hard. He turned to Ginny, pulling a plasma cutter from his belt.
let's get those shackles off you before I decide to kill everyone on this ship.
Already decided that, have you?
Yeah, but I was hoping to make it look like an accident. Now, hold still.
The plasma cutter made short work of the shackles. Ginny rubbed her wrists, working feeling back into her fingers. How'd you find me?
You think I spent 8 years teaching you combat philosophy and xenobiology just to let some 2-credit organ runners make off with you? Huh.
Reuben checked his weapon, then checked it again. Old habits.
I put a tracker in your molar. A fake one.
Ginny pursed her lips, displeased. Well, it took you long enough to get here. Some tracking device. She huffed. Reuben sighed. Ginny was the only thing in the entire universe that he had any patience left for. Otherwise, she'd be left in those damn shackles until her teeth fell out.
You're welcome.
He handed her a pistol.
Safety's off. Magazine's full. Anyone who isn't us dies.
Ginny grinned viciously, excited to get revenge on those who'd caused her such pain. This is going to be very therapeutic. They moved through the ship like 2 tornadoes. One with daddy issues, and the other was a teenage girl. Reuben took point, his prosthetic leg making a distinctive clank, thud rhythm that soon became synonymous with impending doom. Ginny covered their 6, putting rounds through anything that moved and several things that didn't, just to be sure. Reuben had missed her, though he'd rather shoot himself in his good leg than admit it. Ginny was his only trainee that he'd ever grown genuinely fond of. He sure as shit wasn't gonna let anyone take her for cloning or science experiments or whatever these evil space nerds were doing. So, she said during a brief lull when Reuben reloaded, finding alien magazines that would fit with some creative applications of violence to the feed mechanism. Are we gonna talk about the whole tracking device in my tooth thing?
What's to talk about? I put trackers in all your teeth. And your hair follicles.
Ginny snorted.
No, you didn't. And that stuffed bear you don't think I know about.
Reuben went on. Mr. Tactical?
Stupid name for a bear.
Reuben shook his head.
I was 11! And now you're 17 and shooting aliens in the face. They grow up so fast.
Reuben kicked down another door, shot 3 guards before they could react, then shot them again because he had enough bullets to spare.
Speaking of growing up, you want to tell me how you let those bargain bin slavers grab you?
Ginny put 2 rounds through a guard trying to flank them. Wasn't exactly my choice. They hit the safe house with a neural gas. There's a new formula, something the masks couldn't filter.
Careless.
I was making coffee.
Careless coffee break, then.
But there was something in his voice that hadn't quite been there before. Not concern. Reuben didn't do concern. But close enough.
Neural gas is consortium standard. Means that this wasn't random.
They reached the bridge. The blast doors were sealed, which, in Reuben's experience, just meant they made a bigger target. How many hostiles? Ginny asked.
Does it matter?
Ginny shrugged. I like to keep score.
Competitive. I taught you well.
Reuben pulled something from his pad that looked like putty had been crossbred with a bad idea.
15, maybe 20. Bridge crew, security detail. Probably some idiot in command who thinks negotiation's still on the table. We go in, we kill everything that moves, take their ship, and use it to send a message to anyone thinking about touching Earth's property.
I'm property now.
You're an investment. Spent too much time teaching you to write off as a loss.
He finished placing the charges. Then he ruffled Ginny's hair.
Besides, you're the best trained warrior I've produced. I need you around for my portfolio.
Ginny stuck her tongue out at him. Reuben responded by detonating the charges. The explosion was beautiful in the way that terrible things sometimes are. Reuben was through the breach before the smoke cleared, moving with the kind of violence that came from decades of training. Ginny followed, and for a moment, she could see what the aliens saw. Humanity distilled down to its most terrifying essence. Not enhanced, not modified, just clever apes who'd learned to kill things bigger than them and never quite figured out when to stop. Especially when you fucked with those they cared about.
Right,
Reuben said, surveying the carnage with professional satisfaction.
let's see what these idiots know about.
He stopped, staring at one of the console displays. His expression went from satisfied to volcanically furious in about half a second. What? Ginny moved to look over his shoulder. The display showed shipping manifests, cargo transfers, genetic material inventories. Is that?
Those motherfuckers.
Reuben's voice had dropped to the register that meant someone, somewhere, was about to have a very bad day.
They didn't just grab you. Look at these transfers. Genetic samples. Training protocols. They're trying to mass-produce crucible soldiers.
Ginny felt something cold settle in her stomach.
Huh?
How? The program was...
Discontinued. Destroyed. All records burned.
Reuben pulled a data drive from the console with enough force to crack the housing.
Except that someone kept copies. And now the consortium thinks that they can build their own human army.
Can they? Reuben turned to look at her, and his grin was the kind of thing that made death itself consider early retirement.
Kid, they can try. But there's something they don't understand about humans. You can copy our DNA. You can steal our training methods. Hell, you can probably even recreate that god-awful cafeteria food. But you can't manufacture what makes us dangerous.
Which is?
We're too stupid to know when we're beaten, and too mean to die when we should. It's not in our DNA. That is in our spirit.
He headed for the navigation console.
Come on, we got a consortium to burn, and a galaxy to remind why humans are the thing that goes bump in the night.
As the malevolent gesture changed course, heading for the heart of consortium space, alerts began spreading through the galactic networks. The asset had escaped. Worse, she'd been retrieved by the roughneck himself. Trading posts shuttered their doors. Pirates suddenly remembered urgent business in other sectors. Even the AI warlords, who technically couldn't feel fear, started running additional security subroutines. Because everyone knew what happened when humans got angry. And Reuben Scour, he wasn't just angry. He was motivated. The Duchess of Malevolence, Reuben had rechristened their stolen ship with his characteristic lack of subtlety, dropped out of hyperspace like a brick thrown by someone who'd never quite grasped the concept of physics, but made up for it with enthusiasm.
Smooth landing,
Ginny commented, pulling herself up from where the deceleration had thrown her.
Any landing with a ship doesn't explode is smooth enough.
Reuben was already at the weapons console, doing something that would have voided several warranties if the ship had any left.
Besides, I want them to know we're coming.
Them was Station Perdition, a free port that existed in the legal gray area between legitimate business and, oh God, why does that organ vendor have a frequent buyer card? It was also where Reuben's contacts said the consortium was processing their stolen human genetic material. Tell me again why we're not going in quiet? Ginny asked, checking her gear. They'd raided the ship's armory, and she'd found some toys that made her training instructor's warnings about excessive force seem quaint.
Because quiet is what they expect. Infiltration, sabotage, silent strikes.
Reuben smirked.
Nobody expects the humans to kick down the front door and start shooting.
That's because it's tactically unsound. Ginny rubbed the back of her head. Although I really feel like they should start expecting that behavior from us.
Right, perhaps.
He stood, cracking his neck with a sound like distant gunfire.
Come on, let's show these bastards that you don't need an army of vet-grown humans to scare the shit out of the galaxy. You just need one mean old bastard who's run out of fucks to give.
What am I, chopped liver? Ginny scowled. Reuben ruffled her hair again. She was getting really tired of that.
Technically, you're the galaxy's most dangerous weapon, if they kept you for studying.
Ginny perked up. Really?
No.
Reuben scoffed.
They should have abducted me.
The docking request was denied, which Reuben interpreted as, "Please, ram us at maximum velocity." The Duchess hit Station Perdition's hull with all the grace of a sledgehammer auditioning for a ballet. Docking clamps screamed, hull plating buckled. Somewhere, an insurance adjuster started crying without knowing why.
"Knock, knock!"
Reuben announced over the station's communication system.
"This is Captain Reuben Scour, registered natural disaster and professional pain in the arse. I'm here for everything that ye stole from Earth, plus damages, plus emotional trauma, plus a service fee for making me leave my nice, comfortable bar."
The response was predictable. Security alerts, blast doors slamming shut, and the distinctive whine of defense turrets coming online. "They seem upset," Ginny observed.
"Good. Upset people make mistakes."
Reuben checked his weapon one more time. It was a ritual, like how some people had coffee in the morning. Reuben had violence.
Right, so you remember the plan?
"There's a plan?"
"Yeah, we go that way."
He pointed toward the station.
"And we kill anything that tries to stop us. Whoever gets more kills gets to drive home."
Ginny pouted.
You said that the last 3 times and you still drove us home.
Details.
They breached the station with the nature of violence. Loud, messy, and leaving everyone involved questioning their life choices. Reuben had long ago perfected the art of tactical brutality, which was like regular brutality, but with better timing and understanding of anatomy. The first security squad lasted about 8 seconds. The second squad, having watched the first squad's fade on security monitors, lasted 6. They'd started running before Reuben had reached them, which just meant that they died tired. "Contact left," Ginny called out, putting 3 rounds through a guard trying to be clever with a flanking position.
"Contact everywhere,"
Reuben corrected, spraying full auto fire in a pattern that could generously be called enthusiastic.
"It's a target-rich environment. It's like Christmas, but with more aliens."
They carved through the station's outer defenses like a hot knife through butter that had, for some reason, been trained in close-quarters combat. Ginny watched Reuben work with the kind of professional appreciation usually reserved for artists or master craftsmen. Every move was calculated for maximum effect, psychological as much as physical. He wasn't just killing their enemies. He was sending a message. "Checkpoint ahead," she reported, spotting the reinforced security station. "It looks like they're dug in."
"Good. I hate having to chase them."
Reuben pulled a grenade from his belt, then pulled 2 more because he believed in overachievement. The explosion rearranged the checkpoint into modern art. Reuben was moving before the smoke cleared, his prosthetic leg driving him forward. Ginny followed, picking off survivors with the kind of accuracy that came from 6,000 hours of targeting sims and a deep-seated need to impress her homicidal mentor. They were 3 levels deep when things got interesting.
"Well, well,"
the voice came from the station's PA system, cultured and amused.
"The famous roughneck Scour. I heard you were dead. Disappointing people is my hobby."
Reuben replied, not breaking stride.
"Who am I talking to? So I know what to carve on your tombstone."
Director Cossum, head of biological acquisitions for the Vel Consortium. I must say, your reputation doesn't do you any justice. You are much shorter in person.
Ginny saw Reuben's eye twitch. Height jokes were a berserk button painted red and labeled "Press for Apocalypse."
"And you are much stupider than advertised,"
Reuben said, his voice dropping into a rough growl.
Stealing from Earth. Kidnapping my trainee. Did you mistake me for someone who does warnings?
Oh, we didn't steal anything. We purchased the genetic templates quite legally from Earth's corporations. Your own people sold you out, Captain. We're just making better use of the product.
Product.
Reuben tested the word like he was tasting poison.
Did you hear that, kid? We're product now.
I've been called worse, Ginny said. Usually by you.
That's different. I earned the right.
He addressed the PA system again.
So here's what's gonna happen, Cossum. I'm gonna find you, and I'm gonna hurt you in ways that your species has not invented words for. And then, if you are very, very lucky, I'll let Jenny finish you off. She's learning to be merciful. I'm not.
Bold words for a man outnumbered 1,000 to 1.
1,000? Shit, those aren't bad odds. Just means I'll have to pace myself so I don't get tired.
And it's 1,002!
Ginny snapped, shooting off a round at one of the PA speakers.
You guys treat me like I'm not even here!
Reuben looked at her.
Jin, I think that he means his 2,000 soldiers. 1,000 for each.
Oh. The blast doors ahead of them opened, revealing what Cossum possibly thought was an intimidating display of force. 50 guards in full combat armor, weapons trained, formation perfect. Reuben looked at Ginny.
Remember lesson 17.
Fairness is for people who can't win dirty.
That's my girl.
Reuben didn't charge. Charging was what they expected. Instead, he shut out the lighting, threw a handful of flashbangs set to random intervals, and then, in a move that defied several laws of physics and basic decency, used his prosthetic leg to punt a dead guard into their formation like the world's worst bowling ball. In the strobing, screaming chaos that followed, Ginny understood why aliens feared humans. Not because they were stronger or faster or smarter, but because a human could look at impossible odds and think, how could I make this worse for everyone? When the lights finally stabilized, the corridor looked like a tornado had hit a paint store that exclusively stocked red. Reuben stood at the center of it all, somehow having acquired one of the guards' helmets, which he was wearing backwards for reasons that probably only made sense to him.
Well, that was excessive,
Ginny noted, stepping over something that might have once been a torso.
Excessive is my middle name.
I thought it was danger.
What's my other middle name? Yeah, I collect them.
He tossed the helmet aside.
Come on. Cossum's probably changing his pants right about now.
They found the command center 2 levels up. The doors were sealed with military-grade locks, which Reuben interpreted as a suggestion rather than an impediment. Ginny watched him work, placing charges with the kind of focus that came from decades of making things go boom.
You know,
she said,
most people would try hacking the locks.
Yeah, well, most people aren't on a schedule.
He finished with the charges. The doors exploded inward. Inside, Director Cossum stood with the kind of rigid posture that suggested his species had evolved from something with too many vertebrae. He was flanked by guards, but they were already backing away. They'd seen the security feeds. They knew what was coming.
Captain Scour,
Cossum said, trying for dignified.
Perhaps we can discuss this like civilized.
Reuben shot him in the knee.
Oops,
he said, as Cossum collapsed with a sound like a broken accordion.
Finger slipped. It's probably because I'm not civilized.
The guards raised their weapons, then thought better of it as Ginny drew her pistols in what seemed like nanoseconds.
Smart boys,
she said. Drop them and walk away. This isn't your fight. They dropped them. They walked away. Very quickly. Reuben approached Cossum, who was trying to crawl backward while leaving a trail that would have made a snail proud.
Now then,
Reuben said conversationally,
let's talk about this clone army you're building. Where are they?
They're in the...
Reuben shot his other knee.
Jesus Christ!
Ginny exclaimed.
He was going to tell you.
Maybe, but
This way's more fun. He crouched next to Cossum, which left him looming. See, here's what you don't understand about humans, Director. We're not special just because of our genes. We are special because we're the only species stupid enough to weaponize our own chaos in spirit. The facility, Cossum gasped. Subsector 9. The Grave. Halo. It is Old Earth Orbital Defense Platform. See, that wasn't so hard, was it? Reuben stood. Oh, and one more thing. The genetic templates that you brought, the training protocols, all that data that you think is gonna give you an army. What about it? Reuben smiled. It's real. Every bit of it. Perfect copies of Crucible soldiers. Earth's finest killers distilled down to their genetic essence. Cossum's face showed a moment of hope through the pain. But here's the thing, Reuben continued. Earth Intelligence didn't just sell you the data. They sold you data with a built-in flaw. A psychological kill switch we embedded in every Crucible candidate's profile. You see, we knew that someone would try this eventually, so what we did was we made sure that when they did, they'd be building soldiers with a fatal weakness. What weakness? They've got all the skills, all the training, all the killer instinct, but they're missing one crucial thing. Context. They know how to fight, but not why. They know how to kill, but not when to stop. And most importantly, he leaned closer. They've got the genetic markers for human empathy and pack bonding, but no framework to understand them. They are walking contradictions, Director. Weapons with souls, but no purpose. But then, the clones, oh, they're dangerous. You really did grow the perfect killers. Congratulations. Reuben headed for the console, but the moment that they hear what they're missing, the moment that someone shows them what being human actually means, that contradiction is going to tear your conditioning apart. And I'm betting that the broadcast of Earth's greatest hits would do just that. He started pulling data from the system, downloading everything onto portable drives. Jenny kept watch, but the fight had gone out of everyone in earshot. Reuben's reputation was effective crowd control. Got it, he announced. Location, security details, the works. Also, I found your communication logs. Seems the Masters Vale and Vayet are expecting a progress report soon. It's a shame that you're going to miss it. He turned back to Cossum. You got about 10 minutes before you bleed out. You might want to call someone. You're just going to leave me? Yep. Consider it a professional courtesy. I killed everyone else real quick. He headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Director, pass a message along to your consortium buddies. If anyone else wants to try this shit, they'd better be prepared to explain it to me, personally. They left Cossum there, whimpering into his communicator. As they walked back through the devastation they'd caused, Jenny noticed something different about Reuben's expression. The rage was still there, but underneath it. You're worried, she said. I'm pissed off. There's a difference. You're worried about the clones. He stopped walking. For a moment, Jenny thought he was going to deny it. Then his shoulders sagged. Just a fraction. They're kids, he said quietly. However they were made, whatever incomplete souls they're running on, they're still kids. And someone needs to stop them before they hurt anyone, or themselves. So let's stop them, Jenny said. And then you can beat up kids that aren't me. I like the way you think, he agreed. Then, louder. But first, we need backup. Time to call in some favors. You have friends? Jenny snorted. I have people who owe me for not killing them. It's close enough. He pulled out a communicator. Put the word out that the disgruntled veterans and political outcasts dock channel. Tell them Reuben Scour's got a job. Good cause, shit pay, high chance of dying. That'll bring people running. Kid, you'd be surprised how many people in this galaxy are looking for a good death. Well, at least an interesting one. As they headed back to the Duchess, Ginny felt something she hadn't experienced since leaving Earth. Purpose. Not the manufactured purpose of training sims and combat drills, but something real, something worth fighting for. Even if it meant following a septuagenarian psychopath through the galaxy, leaving a trail of bodies and dad jokes in their wake. Hey, Reuben. Ginny tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, uncertain. Yeah. Thank you for coming to get me. Don't get sappy on me, kid. But she caught him smiling, just for a second, before the scowl reasserted itself. Family, Ginny thought, was weird no matter what planet you were on, or where you were in the galaxy. The grave halo hung in space like a monument to humanity's favorite pastime, turning defense into offense through sheer bloody-mindedness. Once, it had been Earth's first line of defense when alien incursion struck. Now, it was a graveyard of derelict ships, slowly spinning around Earth's L4 point like the galaxy's most depressing carousel. Cherry Place, Ginny muttered, studying the tactical display. Really screams secret clone army facility. The best place to hide something is where everyone expects to find bodies. Reuben was doing something to his rifle that probably violated several arms treaties. Nobody asks questions about screaming in a graveyard. They weren't alone on the Duchess anymore. Reuben's message on the dark channels had attracted the kind of people who heard suicide mission against impossible odds and thought, hey, sounds like a good time. There was Tess, who introduced herself by hacking their ship mid-flight and asking if they needed a cyber warfare specialist, or if they were, quote-unquote, planning to fight an AI collective with harsh language. It's a good thing you called, she'd said upon boarding. Now I can automate the non-essential systems on this rust bucket. I'm tired of watching Ginny try to fly while the navigation computer argues about union rights. Gorin had shown up at their last fuel stop. 8 feet of disgraced senator wrapped in what looked like formal robes, but moved like armor.
I've been voting for human integration for 30 cycles,
he said.
Time to put my money where my mouth is. All 4 of them.
And then there was Maddie, an 18-year-old fresh out of training with a degree in I don't give a fuck. She'd crashed into their docking bay in a stolen fighter, climbed out, and announced, I hear you're hunting Vale and Vate's operation. I want in. She hadn't looked at Reuben when she'd said it. She'd been looking at Ginny, with the kind of intensity that made Ginny suddenly very interested in checking her weapon. So, Tess said, fingers dancing over holographic displays that made the air smell like ozone. We got good news and we got bad news. Good news is I got their security grid mapped. Bad news? They got about 300 clone soldiers operational.
300?
Gorin's 4 mouths managed to frown in sequence.
That is significant.
That's target practice, Reuben corrected. How operational are we talking? Fully combat ready, according to their data. Tess pulled up biosigns. Age to physical prime, given basic training, armed with consortium standard gear. They're running through live fire exercises against prisoners. Ginny felt something cold in her chest. Prisoners? Anyone who couldn't pay protection fees. Pirates who crossed the wrong people. A few political dissidents. Tess's expression was carefully neutral. Would you like to know the survival rate? 0. Maddie guessed. When everyone looked at her, she shrugged. Vale and Vate don't do survivors. It's kind of their thing.
Right.
Reuben stood, joints popping like firecrackers.
So, we got 300 of my people. They're not people,
Gorin interrupted.
They're clones. Artificial constructs.
The temperature in the room dropped about 20 degrees. Reuben turned, very slowly, to face the senator.
"Run that by me again,"
he said, voice soft in the way that preceded extreme violence. Gorin, to his credit, didn't back down. Much.
"I merely meant that their legal status is—"
"Their legal status," Reuben said, "is human. They got human DNA, human brains, human potential. I don't give a shit if they came out of a jar or a womb or a fucking vending machine. They're mine.
"Yours?"
Mine to protect. Mine to save. Mine to put down if necessary." He turned back to the display, but mine nonetheless. Silence stretched like taffy. Finally, Maddie cleared her throat. So, what's the plan?" "Same as always," Ginny said, checking her gear. "We go in, kill everything that isn't human, extract the clones, and blow up anything that looks expensive." "That's not a plan," Tess protested. "That's a wish list with explosions."
"Welcome to working with humans,"
Reuben said.
"We don't do plans. We do controlled chaos, and we hope for the best." "You must do some planning,"
Gorin insisted.
"Your species' military victories
were mostly accidents that we took credit for." Reuben grinned. "The Battle of Proxima? We were trying to retreat, and we went the wrong direction. The Siege of New Delhi? Well, our commander was drunk, and he forgot which side was which. We won anyway."
"That can't be true."
Ask Ginny about the time she took out a combat sim by teaching the AI depression. "That was one time." "Well, it worked, didn't it?" Maddie laughed, sharp and bright. "I'm starting to see why the galaxy's terrified of you people. You're all insane." "Sanity's overrated," Reuben said. "Right, so here's what we're doing. Tiss, you're on electronic warfare. I want their systems so confused, they'll be asking their weapons for permission to fire. Gorin, you're with me on the main assault. The formal robe, is it bulletproof?"
"To a degree."
"Oh, what degree?"
"Bachelor's. I never finished my doctorate in not getting shot."
"It's good enough. Mary, you with Ginny. Second infiltration. Hit their command structure while we're making noise at the front door." Maddie grinned. "I get to watch her work up close." "Try to keep the flirting to a minimum," Ginny muttered. "It's distracting." "No promises." They hit the grave halo like karma with a grudge. Reuben's idea of a diversionary assault was to strap engines to a derelict freighter, point it at the facility's front door, and ride it in like the universe's angriest battering ram.
"This is insane!"
Gorin shouted over the sound of tearing metal and screaming alarms.
"First time?"
Reuben asked, casually shooting through a window at targets Gordon couldn't even see yet.
"Don't worry, it gets worse."
The freighter hit with all the subtlety of a diplomat with Tourette's. Reuben was moving before it stopped, his prosthetic leg driving him through the wreckage like violence given form. Gorin followed, discovering that humans had a very different definition of acceptable casualties than most species. Specifically, any casualty that wasn't them was acceptable. Meanwhile, Ginny and Maddie took the subtle approach, which meant by human standards that they only destroyed 3 security checkpoints on their way in. "You're enjoying this," Maddie observed, watching Ginny disassemble a guard with her bare hands. "It's been a rough week." Ginny wiped blood off of her face, only managing to smear it around. "Sometimes you just need to hit things. You know, most people use punching bags. Most people weren't raised by Reuben." She checked her tactical display. "Command center's 2 levels up. You ready?" "I've been ready since you walked into that docking bay." Maddie's expression went serious. "The clones. What happens when we find them?" "We save them if we can. Stop them if we can't." Ginny met her eyes. "They didn't ask to be made. But that doesn't mean we let them hurt innocent people. And if they're already too far gone, then we'll make it quick.
They found the command center at the same time Tess worked her magic. Every screen in the facility started displaying Earth military propaganda from the 2200s, complete with aggressively patriotic music and promises to kick alien ass across the cosmos. It was psychological warfare at its finest, if its finest had been designed by someone with more ammunition than taste. The twins were there, finally, Vale and Vate, standing in perfect synchronization like the universe's worst dance partners. Between them, a figure in consortium military dress who could only be their buyer. Said Vale.
The asset returns.
It's still not my name, Ginny said, weapons already up, but points for consistency.
You're too late,
Vate said.
Our soldiers are already deployed. Even now, they're moving through the station, eliminating your crude companion and his...
The wall exploded. Reuben came through it like the Kool-Aid Man's psychotic uncle, covered in dust and other people's blood, dragging what looked like half a platoon's worth of weapons.
Knock, knock,
he announced.
Sorry, am I interrupting villain speeches? Please, continue. I do love a good villain monologue before I kill someone.
The buyer stepped forward. Unlike the twins, he had the bearing of actual military command.
Captain Scour, I am General Havoc of the...
Reuben shot him in the leg, dropping him instantly.
Leg shot,
he explained to the shocked room.
So, Jenny keeps telling me that I need to leave some alive for interrogation. Compromise, right?
He looked at the twins.
You two, on the other hand, have been very creative. Stupid, but creative.
Our clones,
they started in unison,
are about 15 seconds from learning why you don't copy-paste humans without the user manual.
Reuben checked his watch.
Tiss, you ready?
Tess's voice came through the comms, tinged with electronic glee.
Ready. Fair warning, this is gonna be loud. Define loud. Remember that time you asked me to play Earth music at a reasonable volume? Yeah? Louder.
The station's PA system activated, but instead of alarms or announcements, it began broadcasting something else. Something that made every human in earshot stop and listen. Made every alien step back in primitive fear. It was the sound of Earth. Not propaganda, not anthems, but the real Earth. Children laughing, dogs barking, the crack of a baseball bat, someone's grandmother yelling about dinner, car horns and construction noise, and 8 billion people just trying to get through their day. To the aliens, it was chaos. To the clones, who'd never heard it before, it was a revelation.
What?
The twins began.
Humanity,
Reuben said simply.
Right, the thing that you can't copy, the thing that you can't control. We're not weapons, you idiots. We're people. Messy, chaotic, beautiful people. And you tried to build that in a lab.
Throughout the station, the clones stopped fighting. Not because they were programmed to, but because for the first times in their artificial lives, they were hearing home. A home they'd never been, never seen, never felt, but somehow they recognized in their bones. The genetic markers for empathy and pack bonding that had been dormant, purposeless, suddenly had context. They understood what they'd been missing.
No,
Vale breathed.
They're reprogrammed, conditioned. They'll have to obey.
They're human, Ginny said, and humans don't have to do shit. The door burst open. One of the clones stood there, weapons lowered, face confused. He looked maybe 18, with Ginny's eyes and Reuben's nose, and something entirely his own in his expression. He started, then stopped.
I don't want to fight anymore. I hear it. The... the sound. What is that sound?
Home, Reuben said simply. It's a place that you've never been, but it's a place you belong to anyway. It's what being human's about. You get to choose what to do about it.
More clones appeared. Some still held weapons, but uncertainly, like they'd forgotten what they were for. They looked at each other, at the twins, at the humans who'd come to save or stop them.
This is highly irregular,
They'd said.
The conditioning.
Your conditioning, Maddie interrupted. Assume they were empty vessels, but you can't grow a human without growing a soul. And souls? Souls are stubborn.
The floor.
General Havoc grasped from the floor. Tess already working on his wounds while downloading anything from his neural implant.
Coulson warned us. Said the data had a built-in weakness. It's not a weakness,
Reuben corrected.
it's a feature. Earth's intelligence little gift for anyone stupid enough to try manufacturing humans. We made sure that every clone would have the capacity for choice, just waiting for the right trigger.
The twins moved in perfect unison, reaching for hidden weapons. They were fast, synchronized, a perfect unit of lethal intent. Ginny was faster. The first twin dropped with a knife in his throat. The second managed half a scream before Reuben shot him center mass. They fell together, synchronization maintained even in death.
It's poetic,
Tess commented over the comms.
in a deeply disturbing way. And also, I got everything from the General's implant. Names, locations, other facilities. We're gonna be busy. Clean up on aisle 7,
Reuben announced. He looked at the assembled clones.
Right, listen up. I'm Captain Reuben Scour. I'm old, I'm mean, and I've got a ship. You've got 3 options. 1, stay here and figure shit out for yourselves. 2, come with us and maybe find something worth being. 3, try to fight. In which case, I'll kill you fast because I'll respect the attempt. So, what's it gonna be?
The clone who'd spoken first stepped forward. What would we do? We only know how to fight. So did I, Ginny said. Still figuring out the rest. But that's kind of the point. One by one, they lowered their weapons. Not all of them. Some slipped away into the station's depths, choosing isolation over integration. But most stayed. Most wanted to try.
Gorin,
Reuben barked.
you wanted human integration? Well, congratulations. You've just become the galaxy's first alien foster planet to 300 traumatized clone soldiers. I hope you've got a big house. What?
They need somewhere to go.
Someone to teach them how to be people instead of weapons.
Reuben's expression softened, just for a moment.
You said that you believed in us. Prove it.
Gorin looked at the clones. Young faces wearing old expressions. Manufactured soldiers trying to figure out how to be human. His 4 mouths worked silently for a moment.
I will need help,
he said finally.
You'll get it.
Reuben turned to Tess.
Set the reactor to overload. I want this place wiped from existence. Already done. We got about 20 minutes. Perfect. Everyone to the ship. Move like you've got purpose.
The evacuation was chaos, but it was human chaos. Organized just enough to work, messy enough to be real. Ginny found herself shepherding a group of clones who looked disturbingly like her younger self, while Maddie helped others who seemed torn between trained aggression and newfound confusion. This is weird, one clone said, looking at Ginny. You're like my sister, my mother template? Let's go with sister, Ginny decided. Less complicated. They made it to the Duchess with 5 minutes to spare. As the ship pulled away, the grave halo began to bloom with internal explosions. The derelict ships, the facility, a twisted dream of a manufactured army, all of it consumed in nuclear fire. Pretty, Maddie commented, standing next to Ginny on the observation deck.
Yeah. So, what now? Now?
Ginny looked back at the cargo bay full of confused clones, at Goran trying to explain basic social concepts, at Tess already working on false identities for 300 people who technically didn't exist, at Reuben, watching it all with the expression of someone who'd just adopted way too many kids at once.
Now we figure out what comes next. Together.
Ginny looked at Maddie,
Really looked at her. She saw the interest there, the possibility, the reminder that being human meant more than just violence. Yeah, she said. Together.
Reuben appeared at her shoulder, because of course he did.
Stop making eyes at each other. We got work to do.
To himself, he muttered,
I fucking hate teenagers.
What work?
The consortium still exists, so other groups are probably trying the same shit.
He cracked his knuckles.
We can't have that. It's bad for business.
What business?
The business of reminding the galaxy that humans aren't resources. We're not weapons. We're not products.
His grin was sharp enough to cut glass.
We're the neighbors from hell, and we're not going anywhere.
So we're going to war?
Nah. War's got rules.
Reuben headed for the bridge.
We're going freelance. Little intimidation here, little liberation there. Show the galaxy what happens when you wake the sleeping giant and discover that it's got insomnia and anger issues.
Ginny followed, because where else was she going to go? This was her family now. Weird, violent, and dysfunctional, but hers.
Hey, Reuben.
Yeah?
Thanks. For everything.
You thank me by not dying. I put too much work into you to start over.
But he reached down and ruffled her hair with surprising gentleness.
You did good, kid. Real good.
As the Duchess of Malevolence jumped to hyperspace, leaving the burning halo behind, word spread throughout the galaxy. The humans were moving, not as conquerors or saviors, but as something far more dangerous. People who give a damn. And at the heart of it all, a 5'2" natural disaster and his too well-trained adoptive daughter, reminding the universe that humanity's greatest weapon had never been enhancement or technology. It was the stubborn refusal to let anyone else define who they were.
Next stop?
Tess asked from the pilot seat.
Wherever they're stupid enough to try this shit again.
Reuben said.
The galaxy's full of assholes who need reminding.
And we're the ones to remind them?
Kid,
Reuben said, lighting a cigar despite 16 different regulations against it.
Who else is crazy enough to try?
The ship jumped to hyperspace, carrying its cargo of soldiers turned people, misfits turned family, and the promise that somewhere in the vast galaxy, someone was about to have a very bad day. Because Earth's children were coming home. All of them.